So first, we will try to understand the vaccine procurement. The good thing is now the things are very much normalized. You just need to understand the nitty-gritties and few of the concepts out here, like that of the indemnity clause and how does the vaccine delivery basically takes place. So with respect to vaccine, you guys would have made with me three blocks. One would be vaccine delivery and manufacture. Second would be of the vaccine manufacture and approval. Second would be of vaccine delivery, and third would be of vaccine feedback, if you can recall and go back to your notes. We then had seen certain issues with respect to the vaccine. First issue came up right at the new drug and clinical trial rule of 2019. The issue was we do not in India have an emergency use approval process like it is in USA. So the process that we have mentioned in the new drug and clinical trial rule 2019 is that of the accelerated approval. And on the basis of that, we basically had approved two of the vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin, made by Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech respectively. But the second wave came. When the second wave came, it was more deadly in the sense that it was more rapid. Why? Because the virus had mutated and it now had the spike protein which helped the virus to intrude into the human body more efficiently than previously it used to do. It also affected the lungs of the people this time significantly, reducing the SpO2 levels, requiring the need for the oxygen concentrators, which in India we did not have. So we had to import. After 17 years, India took the foreign aid. Then we diverted the industrial use oxygen for the medical supplies, and all these things we saw during this 2 months, right? But amid all these things, one issue was persistent, that is of vaccine shortage. Previous to that, that is previous to the second wave, we were seeing the issue of vaccine hesitancy, vaccine eagerness, and vaccine wastage. With respect to vaccine wastage, you should be aware of the fact that in India we have a vaccine wastage data or of 6%. This is the average vaccine wastage data of the India. States vary with respect to this particular data, but at an average level, we have 6% of vaccine wastage. Now, what is vaccine wastage? Vaccine can be wasted if not handled properly, point number one. And vaccine can be wasted if there are more number of vaccines with you and less number of people who have come to you to administer those vaccines or to get inoculated. So this was the issue because of the vaccine hesitancy during the first phase, when vaccines were open according to the Paul Committee to the front line and the health workers in our country. So data was not there with respect to the vaccines. People were not taken into confidence, and wide media publicity was not done. So all these things resulted into the issue of vaccine hesitancy. But during the second wave, there were people who wanted to take vaccine. It was an urgent need also for the government to expedite the delivery of the vaccine so as to arrest the spread of the coronavirus, but we did not have vaccines. So government took one decision. Government said that from 1st of May, all the adults, that is the age group of 18 to 44 people, now would be or now can now take the vaccine. Previous to that, frontline workers, health workers were allowed, 60 aged people were allowed, and 45 plus year people were allowed having comorbidities. All those people, all those citizens were getting the vaccine free of cost from the government's end. There was no role of private sector, and this was the criticism that we made back then. But from 1st of May, this centralized policy of vaccine delivery and procurement of the central government was changed to the liberalized policy. In the liberalized policy, central government said that now we would be procuring only 50% of the vaccine. Rest 50% would be equally procured by the state government. That is, the states will procure 25%, and private sector also will now play an active role and will procure 25% of the vaccines. So this is the liberalized policy which came into effect from 1st of May. Apart from this, central government also said that this particular age group 18 to 44 will have to shell out money. That is, for them the vaccines would be paid and not free, unlike the previous group of frontline health workers 60 plus and 45 plus with comorbidities. So this particular policy attracted too much of criticism. First criticism came from the states, and states government said that we are not in a position to procure the vaccine for two reasons. Reason one, vaccine manufacturers, they do not entertain us for we not being able to place the bulk orders. Issue number two, we do not have signed the indemnity clause, or we are not in a position actually to sign the indemnity clause, and so we are unable to get the vaccine. So let us understand the issue of state governments out here. First, their orders were not in bulk. So what will it result into? Two things again: less interest of vaccine manufacturers in sending the consignments of vaccine to these states. And second, if at all the vaccines were sent, they were sent at higher cost. So the price of vaccine increased. The same vaccine which the central government was procuring was around 150 rupees, but was costing to the state government anywhere around 300 to 600 rupees, for two reasons as already discussed: no bulk orders, no indemnity clause. Now what is the indemnity clause? Indemnity clause, in a layman's word you can understand, is basically an exemption from any kind of liability. Suppose you are a vaccine manufacturer, I am a state government CM. Now I place an order of vaccine with you. If you give me vaccine, and if that vaccine has any sort of adverse event, will I be in a position to sue you, to file a legal case against you? Yeah, right? And then you will have to give me the compensation. So as to exempt from these kind of liabilities, a contract is signed beforehand that in case of any kind of adverse event, it is not the vaccine manufacturer who is gonna bear the liability, but the government. So if the court announces certain amount of compensation, that will be given by the government and not by the vaccine manufacturer. Now this kind of indemnity clause in India cannot be signed by the state government. This clause can only be signed by the central government. It is not mentioned anywhere in the rule book. Under the Indian Contracts Act of 1874, it is not mentioned that a state government cannot sign. But obviously, vaccine manufacturer will not sign it with the state government, being a very minuscule political entity given the large size of India. So obviously, vaccine manufacturers would be interested in signing such a clause with the central government. And if you do not sign such a clause, and still you want the vaccine, then what will happen? The cost of vaccine will also increase. Why? Because you as a vaccine manufacturer will include in the price of the vaccine the cost of liability, because there is no indemnity contract signed. So because of all these factors, state governments either were not having the vaccine. If they were having the vaccine, they were priced high, which was directly affecting the wallet, or you can say the finances of the state government. Already state government have released much of their taxing powers under the GST. Then the pandemic has affected them adversely, right? I'm sorry. So they have affected them adversely. So they were not in a position basically to administer these kind of vaccine or inoculate the people. Now this case then went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, after assessing the entire situation, first of all said that when the central government is getting the vaccine at a discount rate because of the bulk order, then why central government is not procuring the entire set of vaccines and then giving it to the state? Why is it asking the state government to procure when you clearly know that they will have to pay greater price for the same product? Second, Supreme Court said that this policy of yours of asking this age group to pay for the vaccine is arbitrary and irrational if we apply the test for permissible classification. Now, please jot down this keyword test for permissible classification. What is it? Test for permissible classification is a feature of Article 14, that is right to equality in our country, that is mentioned in the constitution of our country. This test says that if at all you want to classify among the set of people, then such a classification should be based upon intelligible differentia. Another keyword, intelligible differentia. That is such a differentiation which is easy to be understood. If I am giving you 100 rupees and if I am giving another person 200 rupees, then I should be in a position to explain to you that why I have given you 100 and why I have given another person 200. So this is the intelligible differentia. The Supreme Court, when applied this test here, it said that why are you giving free vaccine to people like frontline workers, health workers, 60 plus people, 45 people, and are charging 18 to 44 age group people? So this is obviously not a reasonable classification, and so it is arbitrary and irrational. So government here, I think it is the talk of Monday. Yeah, on Monday, the government changed its policy again. First from centralized to liberalized, then again from liberalized to centralized, with significant amount of role to the private sector. That is, previous to the May, 100% procurement was done by the central government. In May, 50%, 25%, 25%. Now, from Monday onwards, the decision has been made that 75% procurement would be done by the central government, and the vaccines would be then distributed to the state government for free administration. No paid vaccines now onwards. And also we are securing 25% procurement to be done by the private sector, because it is very much essential for the private sector to play an effective and linking role in the entire vaccine delivery process of our country. But there are fears with respect to the private sector that they can charge exorbitant rates. So as to assuage such fears, central government has decided one more thing, that we would be capping 150 rupees. We would be capping the price of the vaccine for the private sector over and above the cost price to 150 rupees. That is, if a private sector purchases a vaccine for 600 rupees, then that private sector cannot sell it for more than plus 150 plus 5% GST. Not more than this, they can sell the vaccine to anyone. The private sector obviously is opposing this particular move, given their huge administrative and operational cost, which they feel is not justifiable given the 150 rupees, which the capping has been done by the government of India. So, do you understand here the approach of the government with respect to the vaccine procurement and delivery? Point number one. Then the intervention of the Supreme Court. That was very important because that was the thing which changed the scenario altogether. State governments were protesting for a long time, but it was like uh, the central government was not very attentive to that. But the moment Supreme Court intervened, it said that your policy is arbitrary, irrational. Why can't you procure and provide it to the people? Then the things changed. And in between, one more development took place, that is the approval given to a foreign vaccine for the first time, that is the Sputnik 5 of Russia. Here, you will also include vaccine diplomacy as a part of IR because it definitely has the potential to boost the relationship of India and Russia, apart from securing the public of India from the coronavirus. So Sputnik 5 has been approved. And another significant development so that we can import further vaccines and expedite the delivery of the vaccine was taken from the end of the DGCI, that is a General Controller of India, who basically waived the necessity of conducting parallel bridging trials. Now, this is the word that you need to understand: parallel bridging trials. You already know how the vaccines get approved through the three-phase trial process. So suppose a vaccine is approved in India. A vaccine from India needs to be exported to a second country. Second country has multiple options with respect to that. First, they can conduct their own three-phase trials of the same vaccine in the country, but that is usually not advisable because such trial has already been done. The data is there. You can just import the data or share the data. Second option you have is you conduct bridging trials and then approve the vaccine. Third option you have is you do nothing and you just import, you take the consignment and forward it for the inoculation purposes. So in India, we were doing bridging trials. Bridging is the sense that whenever consignment of vaccine used to come, we used to test a sample. And in that process, a lot of time was wasted. Also, vaccine manufacturer had a risk that what if my sample fails? What if my sample produces adverse effect? Then I can be liable. So it's better not to send the vaccine. Getting the point? So DGCI said that now onwards we won't be conducting bridging trials because there is no use of it. Already those vaccines are being given to millions of people in the world. So why to conduct such kind of trials when it is also making vaccine manufacturers reluctant in sending the vaccines to us? Getting my point? So by waiving this bridging trial concept, now vaccine manufacturers would be more willing to send the vaccine. Also now center will be dealing with them, so they are again more willing. Indemnity clause we are already working over, or we are working over that with the US government also, that to sign the indemnity clause with the with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. So once that issue is resolved, bilaterally, diplomatically, we can expect Pfizer and Moderna vaccines in India as well. So this was everything that you should know about the vaccine procurement delivery issue, the intervention of Supreme Court, test of permissible classification, right to equality, very important. Let me throw some light on the equality principle. See, for most of us, equality is like to treat each and every one equally. But that is not the idea of the concept of equality actually. If you do so, you basically are going against the concept of the equality. Because irrespective of the background of an individual, irrespective of knowing the background of the individual, how can you treat each and every one on a equal footing? So it totally depends where you come from, how educated you are, what is your culture, your tradition, how you have been brought up. Depending upon all these things, only I will be in a better position to treat you. And only after that, I will be doing justice with you because I will be abiding by the principle of equality. Getting my point? So when we talk about the reservation in a country, that is positive discrimination, if you pay attention to the word. So that is also very much essential in the principle of equality. So that is the thing which you basically study in the polity. But to get better clarification, I'm using the term here so as to you so that you understand it with examples. Any doubt out here with respect to the indemnity clause, Supreme Court intervention, anything? And one more thing, PMGKAY, that is Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, has been extended by the government of India till the November month. It was launched the first time last year during the epidemic, during the pandemic, and then it was stopped or suspended when the things got normalized. Then during the second wave this year, in the month of April, it again was started. So what is the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana? Under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, all the beneficiaries of the National Food Security Act 2013, they get in addition, that is over and above the entitlements of the NFSA Act, they get 5 kilograms of food rations per month per person, absolutely free of cost. So it's not like that NFSA benefits would not be given to them. That also will be given to them. That is at a subsidized rate. And in addition to that, 5 kg of food grains would be given per person per month till at least November, from April this year onwards, to beneficiaries.